Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following everything happening with the latest gaming hardware. I'm your host, Daemon Hatfield, and joining me this week is Destin Legarie from IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
Bam! Hey everybody, thanks for having me, Daemon.
And from IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond, Max Scoville.
Hello, hello.
And we thought it would be about time to revisit the comparison between Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. Now that last week, I'm sure you heard, Xbox got its second price hike within a year. And it's sort of changed some of the tiers, removed some of the benefits from some of the tiers. So only the premium, Ultimate tier will get you those delicious day one games, at least on console. And of course, PlayStation Plus got a price hike last year. So in 2024, midway through the year, which is the better service? Which is the better subscription service, the better value at this time? Just to sort of remind everyone, just the sort of like basics of each plan. Over on Game Pass, their entry-level plan is Core. It's $10 a month, gets you online play, a curated list of games. I believe there are about 41 games on there, and it is actually a really great list. Great games like Fallout 4, Dead Cells, Dishonored. It's a really nice little collection. On the other end, you got Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, $20 a month. $240 a year, so it's definitely pricey, but it gets you hundreds of games. I believe there are currently over 500 games available in Ultimate right now. You can play them on console or PC, and it gets you all those day one releases, of which there are many. Just this week alone, we get a handful of day one releases, including a big new game from Capcom. So there's definitely a lot of value there to go along with sort of the pricey monthly subscription there. Then there's PC, which is only $12 a month, and it's basically Ultimate. Again, almost 500 games. That seems to be the great deal, the best deal over on the Xbox side. PlayStation Plus, you get a little bit of a discount if you sign up for a full year at a time. So their essential entry-level tier is $80 a year, online multiplayer, and a handful of monthly games. Extra, I think, is sort of the sweet spot for most people on PlayStation. $135 a year, adds a whole game catalog plus Ubisoft Plus Classics, and you're getting a lot of just, those prestige PlayStation AAA exclusives that they're known for. And then their premium tier is $160 a year. It adds the classics catalog. Hundreds of older PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and PS2 games. So, Destin, I'll throw to you first. After two price hikes, for years since 2017, since Game Pass was revealed, we've called it the best deal in gaming. We've said that many, many times. After two price hikes in a year, after the loss of day one games in certain tier, is Game Pass still the best deal in gaming today?
I think it is. I preface that by saying that this price hike is quite significant compared to any other price hikes that they've ever done. But it's basically asking you to pay 2 more months of additional cost every year to get access to your day one releases. Now, part of this obviously is because we know that Call of Duty is coming at the end of the year, and just hypothesizing, it must be a cost-benefit analysis on Microsoft's part. The problem is the value hasn't been clearly outlined to consumers about the price hike beyond that Call of Duty edition. So we do know, like you said, the official website for Xbox lists 508 games. There's a lot of great games on Xbox Game Pass, but this really sort of put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth leading into Gamescom, where Xbox could potentially have an announcement about something coming to Game Pass. So is it still the best deal in gaming? It is, but it's getting dangerously close for a lot of people to that cancellation point, as you need to basically play through 3 games to warrant the price tag at this point.
Well, playing through 3 games in what amount of time?
In a year.
So, I mean, anyone who considers himself, sort of a serious gamer is probably playing through at least 3 games a year, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. But does that apply to all people that are looking at this as an option? I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when Call of Duty is added to the service. I think we see a new number come out from official PR lines about where Game Pass is after the new Call of Duty is added. This one is looking to pique a lot of people's interests. A lot of people seem excited about this new Call of Duty. They're doing some new movement mechanics. And this is a big bet for Microsoft. This is easily one of the most profitable franchises in all of gaming. So to have it on a service where you can pay for 1 month, pay $20, play through the Call of Duty campaign and whatever else you happen to see this year, like Indiana Jones or maybe Avowed is piquing your interest, you've gotten your $20 worth. But do they stay with the service? I imagine they will if Microsoft can get that release cadence going. And after the showcase this year, they do have a lot of interesting stuff on the way. But like I said, I do think that the price hike should have come with an announcement like the Activision back catalog or the old Crash Bandicoot and Spyro remasters that are rumored to be coming to the service. That should have been part of the price hike announcement. So there's some rationalization that can be done for consumers about the value of the service. But again, it is still, in my opinion, the best deal in gaming. I just feel like the price hike should have come with potentially a little bit of something to soften the blow.
Mm-hmm. And Max, how do you feel that PlayStation Plus stacks up today? I think both of these game libraries, both on Ultimate and on PS Plus Extra, they're great game libraries. I don't think too many people would argue that.
Agree.
But PlayStation is missing those day one editions, right? So
yeah, and that's
it's also
that's
a lot
Sony's big.
cheaper.
True, yeah. Sony's big claim to fame is the wonderful first party library, really some really great exclusives, and those have been noticeably absent from this PlayStation Plus catalog. There was that wonderful thing for a brief window there where anybody who jumped on a PlayStation 5 early on had access to this sort of PS4 classics collection, which they've since phased out, which is kind of a bummer. I guess my issue with PlayStation Plus as general is the curation seems a little bit less focused than Game Pass. I really appreciate how much Game Pass is, how they're good at announcing. They do basically 2 announcements a month being like, here's what's coming up the second half of this month. Here's what's lined up. And you can pre-download stuff. You can mark your calendar when it's coming out. There's a sort of, it feels like getting almost a magazine subscription. It feels very subscription-like in that sense. And Sony does periodically have games that are day one releases, like little, for lack of a better word, indie games that drop on PlayStation Plus. And they've done a decent job of hyping some of those up. I believe, Stray was a good example. Roller Drome was another one. Those are cool games, but they're not big, huge AAA day one releases. They're not akin to something like Starfield or Call of Duty Black Ops 6, for instance. And it's there is a comparable library if you're looking at sheer numbers. One sort of minor asterisk there is that the PS3 section is all cloud streamed, and I think a good chunk of Vita stuff and also PS1 classics, some of those are streamed too, which depending on your internet connection, your mileage may vary. Depending on how you like to play your games, that might not be your cup of tea. Whereas on Xbox, you kind of know what you're getting in for. Basically anything on Game Pass, you can stream it if you choose to, but it's if they announce, hey, like this beloved Xbox 360 game is now playable, part of Game Pass, you're not wondering if there's some caveat there where you have to have a stable internet connection to enjoy it properly. So, looking at the, 467 games on PS Plus versus the 508 on Game Pass, you kind of have to shave a few of those off. That said, I think I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder towards PlayStation Plus because they, to Destin's point, they softened the blow day one. There was a long time there where in order to play any games online with Xbox, you needed Xbox Live. And then when Sony implemented that, they added PlayStation Plus, but they were like, guess what? You get free games along with it. So a bunch of people grumbled about having to pay money to play games online all of a sudden, but you'd get cool games like Helldivers 1, for instance, or what's it called? Not Rollerball, the car soccer game. What am I saying?
Rocket League?
Yes,
Rocket League. There we go. That's the one. That was a day one, that was a day one game, and a lot of the success could probably be chalked up to that. The fact that people probably wouldn't have thrown down $20 to play a game like Rocket League, but there it was, day one on PlayStation Plus. Anyway, getting in the weeds here. That was a very smart way of kind of, it's a spoonful of sugar, helps the medicine go down. And Destin, to your point, I think this announcement would have been really smart right after Gamescom. Or maybe in the wake of Black Ops 6, because if everyone's all playing Black Ops 6 and they're like, holy cow, I got a great deal on this, maybe they would have probably taken a hit in the money department there. But again, it's sort of, do you want the good news or the bad news first? And in this case, here's the bad news kind of floating by itself in a vacuum, and there's not really any good news to back it up. I still think it's the best deal. I think it's a great deal to get this, but yeah, it has us examining which is the better deal, which makes you wonder, like, is this good marketing on Xbox's side of things? One thing that PlayStation Plus has that I feel like PlayStation Plus subscribers might not even be aware of is you get like 100 movies. There's the Sony Pictures Classics core library, whatever they call it, where Sony basically dragged and dropped a folder full of WMV files they had kicking around and there's some really good movies on there, and then there's also stuff like Three Ninjas Kick Back, and you're like, with all due respect to Three Ninjas Kick Back, it's no high noon on Danger Mountain or whatever it's called, but like it feels scattered. It feels like it's all over the place, much like my argument in defense or accusation of it. Like, I think that PlayStation Plus, from the second they announced the different tiers, it had people kind of checking the fine print. You're wondering what exactly am I getting with this price hike, with these different tiers. I still wish they'd called it just silver, gold, and platinum tier, because that's much more self-explanatory than extra, premium, and essentials or what have you. And now Xbox is following suit, and people are going to be kind of squinting a little bit at what they actually get with their subscription fee. But at the end of the day, I don't know. You're getting with Xbox, you're paying a subscription fee, and you're getting theoretically a bunch of $70 games day one for free. So kind of a no-brainer on that front.
Yeah, PlayStation just had a pretty strong addition of games. Like, there were 15 new games just added to the PlayStation Plus catalog. That was sort of making the rounds. It includes stuff like Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, and I know Remnant 2 was on the list. The thing about Xbox is, if I hear a new Xbox game is coming out, I know I have Game Pass and that I can play that. And PlayStation Plus, there's just this thing where they haven't changed it enough or marketed it enough to give you that sort of good feeling about the additions that are added to the service. I do wish that potentially on the base tier, that those games were automatically added to your library. I think that would give people a reason to continue subscribing and just know that they have this massive library of games in their PlayStation Plus catalog. Ironically, Xbox got rid of games with gold, but they do have the library of 41 games, and PlayStation got rid of their library of some of their best games, but they keep their version of games with gold in the PlayStation Plus library games that are added every few months. Like right now it's Borderlands 3, which I would highly recommend people pick up right now. So to be honest, I really like both services. I like that they both provide an option for consumers. They both have cloud streaming capabilities. Xbox is actually going big. I'm going to be doing some testing for IGN this week with the Amazon Fire TV stick and how the functionality is with games off of Game Pass and that service. And PlayStation Plus has drastically improved their streaming capabilities with the PlayStation 3. Granted, that's always with the caveat of input latency to be considered. So both are interesting. I still give the nod to Game Pass, but obviously I'm the Xbox guy. So
Hey, I'm the Sony guy, and I'm right there with you.
yeah.
So let me know what you both think about this. If someone were going to ask me if they're getting an Xbox or they're getting a PlayStation 5, they're asking me should they subscribe to Game Pass or to PlayStation Plus, I would ask a few questions. If they're going to be a little bit more of a casual gamer, they want to play the yearly sports game, or they're just mostly going to play Call of Duty and like maybe one other first-person shooter out of a year, I would say neither subscription service is worth it for them. If they're a little bit more serious about playing several games a year, digging into these catalogs, I would say yes, subscribe on Game Pass, because you get access to this huge library of games already, and then you're going to be getting many, many future games day one, including all the big Xbox games. Whereas on PS Plus, I would ask, well, are you new to the PlayStation ecosystem? Because if you're not, the chances are you've played a lot of games that are already in there, right? It's almost like you get access to a big back catalog. So if you haven't played that back catalog, sure, subscribe to it for a while. Maybe you only need it for the first year of your PS5. I don't know, Max, let's start with you. What do you think?
That's a fair point. Yeah, I think if you're looking to discover new games, Game Pass is a no-brainer. They do a really good job of surfacing stuff. Like I just played Chants of Sennar, which I'd heard good buzz about last year when it came out, and it was free. It popped up on Game Pass. I checked it out and I completely fell in love with it. It's a phenomenal little indie puzzle adventure game, and I find myself falling into a lot of games like that. Botany Manor. I thought that was one of those boring gardening games. It's like a Resident Evil game where you solve puzzles, except nothing's trying to kill you while you're solving the puzzles. It was great. Apparently, I've been in the mood for puzzle games. But yeah, that's the kind of thing you can dabble in that sort of stuff with either of these subscription services. But to your point, if you've if you've been playing PlayStation games, if you've been in the PlayStation ecosystem, if you've been checked into gaming for the last 5-10 years, you're probably going to have a lot less surprises on the PlayStation side of things. Whereas Xbox, again, is really good at curating new stuff and finding new stuff. And it kind of scratches that itch of back in the day getting demo discs, except you're not getting demo discs, you're getting whole games, which I think is pretty neat. But again, if somebody's just going to play Call of Duty or Madden all year long, then, do the bare minimum, pay for the, online service.
Destin, what do you think? Someone's buying an Xbox today. Do you recommend they subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate?
Well, I think for either service, you need to have the base level these days with the online functionality that most games just have incorporated with them. That said, I think Game Pass, if you see even 1 or 2 games on there that you want to play, then it's kind of a no-brainer for the $20. You get access to 508 games currently listed on the Xbox website. If you're on PC, $12 for 470 games is also a really good deal. Yeah, I would recommend at least looking at Game Pass. Definitely get the core, especially if you haven't played Fallout 4, and then look at Ultimate. And also keep in mind, if you're a Call of Duty fan, Game Pass to me seems like the way that I would go if I want to play through that campaign. And be a responsible consumer. If you're not using the service, you just have to remind yourself to cancel it so that you're not being charged extra amounts of money. One note on saving money, I'm always mindful of that, is that with Xbox Game Pass, they're now limiting stacking to, I believe it's 12 months worth of stacking. Previously, they would allow you to stack up to 3 years. That's what I did, because there used to be this deal where you could get 3 years for like very, very cheap. And it was the same with PlayStation Plus, but those loopholes have since been closed. So I do hope that there's not another price increase coming in the next 12 months, which is why they have limited the ability to do that. But time will tell on that one.
What's the deal? They're not, for people who are current Game Pass subscribers, they're not cutting off the stacking until September. So you've got.
I'm not quite clear on what's going on there. You can still stack by September 13th or 14th, I believe was the exact date. And then after that, you're not able to do it anymore. You're only allowed to have like 1 year in advance, which is, it's strange. I guess they want to make sure they're getting money.
There's a way to save money by spending money right now, but you might want to do some research to figure out what that is. Flip side, one thing that's really cool about Game Pass is the reward system, where if you play enough games, you earn enough points that can be then exchanged for more Game Pass. So there is a way to kind of just have a
kind of game the system.
The Microsoft reward system, that's what you're talking about. Basically, you're incentivized to use the Edge browser, and you can just use it in your daily use. You'll probably go up. There's a few mini games you can play for points every day, and then you get streaks. I was actually a big fan of this for like 2 years. I made like $300 worth of points, and I just turned them all into Amazon gift cards. But anyway, just using the browser, they give you points. And a lot of users really like to use the auto redeem feature, which also there were some emails that went out. People were worried that was going to go away. It's not. It's still there. There's just some price adjustments for how many points you need to earn. But yeah, if you partake in the service and you play the recommended games, then you get a lot of points every month, especially if you're on a streak with that service.
It's awesome. It's a really cool feature. You can theoretically just get Game Pass forever if you're playing enough games and going on Edge enough, apparently, or Bing or whatever it's called.
I was hopeful PlayStation Stars would do the same thing to bring up reward programs.
Well, that remains to be seen. It was down for like a month and a half or something. I think it's still down in half the world, but they're maybe figuring that out. Is a thing I've been saying about various Sony departments for years now. So I don't know. We'll find out.
All right, well, that's a look at Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus halfway through 2024. Both good services. Neither one is bad. Both offer, really great libraries of games. Xbox does have a significant advantage with all the day one games, but it is also significantly more expensive. So let's take a look at last week's poll. We were discussing exclusives. We had a very simple poll question to you, the audience. Do you think exclusives are good or bad for the gaming industry? And just about 44% of you responded, exclusives, good. 44%. Does that surprise either of you, Max or Destin?
No, I mean, it was 43 to 31 on the vote. So exclusives bad was the 31%. Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's surprising. I think people like having exclusives on their console, and when that's no longer the case, it does sort of beg the question, why do I have this console? And I think a lot of people are feeling that right now on at least the Xbox side. I know that was brought into question when they started bringing those 4 games over to PlayStation. But on the PlayStation side, they have said that games like Concord, fairly divisive title at the moment, will be coming to PC day and day because it's a multiplayer cross-progression game. And Helldivers 2 is currently available on PC. And Xbox, you also can get Game Pass Ultimate for a cheaper price on PC. So right now, if you're looking at everything, the best place to be, to me, seems to be on PC right now.
I'd agree with you on that front. It's funny, on the console side of things, the whole exclusives war has been going since day one with Nintendo and Sega, as far back as anyone can remember. And on the PC side of things, I guess the closest you had to that was PC and Mac, and then that wasn't really much of a fight. That kind of, Mac just went and did their own thing. And then we saw the rise of the PC exclusivity war with the Epic Game Store, which went and pissed everybody off because certain games were jumping ship and going over there. And I don't think exclusivity is really good for anybody except for whoever's writing the check for said exclusivity, or trying to get a game to work on a specific piece of hardware.
Yeah, maybe the only argument would be that a system selling exclusive on one platform could create competition for another platform to create also good content, to try and attract people to their ecosystem. So I could see there being an argument for competition, but I also think, everyone should be able to play great games wherever they want to.
And Damon, I think that's a really important point. Competition is why we have these two services competing against each other to get the best deal possible for the consumer. And consumers have the option to look at the pros and cons of each, sort of like what we're doing right now. Competition is so important. And that's why I appreciate that there's PlayStation Plus, there's the Nintendo online subscription that you can get, and there is Xbox Game Pass, because all of those services are competing for your time and money. And if they aren't there to compete with each other, then prices can quickly get out of hand, and there's not a lot of reason to incentivize consumers to go to one service versus the other. So
Sure.
You make a good point.
Okay, a new poll for you to vote on for next week. Which top-tier game subscription is the best value today? Xbox Game Pass Ultimate or PlayStation Plus Premium? Vote at IGN.com the day this episode goes live. We'll share the results with you next episode, which will not be next week, because next week is San Diego Comic-Con, and most of us will be heading down there for several days to bring you all the latest on movies and TV shows and comic books and games. So please be excited for that. Thank you to both Max and Destin. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes here in our LA office to make this episode possible. My name is Daemon. We'll be back in a couple weeks with more on the latest gaming hardware news. We'll see you then.